these Fourth Tuesday forums for the past almost 2 years now. The fourth Tuesday of every month from 3 to 4:30, we have a different topic. And they're speak on a variety of innovative options and really share how these options are working in the lives of people that utilize these supports. Each month, our presenters are a combination of DDS staff that talk about what the support option is. There may be providers, depending on what the option is, and there is always presentations from individuals and families, and really that's the point of the forums. That's the highlight of the forums. That's why people keep coming back. It's an opportunity for people to share their personal story of how this option has worked in their lives, and it offers the opportunity for others to kind of think about how it might work for them. So we have a great variety of presenters today. I do want to share that this session is being recorded and will be available on our website. We record the sessions so that we have them available, and for those that aren't able to attend, they can view and get the information at a later date. Because we do have a number of providers, and each presenter will talk for about 10-15 minutes. We want to make sure that we get through all the presentations. So if you have a question, I encourage you to put it in the chat so you don't forget it, and we'll know who the question was relating to based on who's speaking at that time. But we do hold all questions until the end, and that's to make sure that we get through all the presentations. Sometimes the question is answered in the course of the presentations. If you're not big on using the chat feature, you can also raise your hand when we get to the question and answer time, and just ask your question verbally as well. So without further ado, I will kick off today's forum. Our topic today is self-direction at home, work, and in the community. And we have a number of DDS team members that will start us off with an overview of self-direction. And Chelsea or Denise,
Yes.
who's going to be the first?
I'll jump in first. Thank you,
All
Deputy
right,
Commissioner.
welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Denise Palladino. I am the Self-Determination Director in the South Region, and we have Chelsea Houston, who is my counterpart in the West Region. There's Chelsea. We're also going to hear from Carol Grabby, who is a self-advocate coordinator, as well as Kevin Arce, who is also a self-advocate coordinator in the North Region. So I'm going to share my screen with folks because we put together a very quick PowerPoint just so you could read along with me. Okay. Does everybody see that? I want to make sure you guys see that.
Yep, we see it.
We
Okay,
can.
awesome. Yeah, okay. Let me go back to page 1, however, jumping the gun on you. Okay, so we're here to talk, as the deputy said, that, SD, self-determination, is one of our department's initiatives, one of the 7-step initiatives. It's an important, it's just not a service delivery. It's something that self-determination is something that every single person, not just within our department, outside our department, should be introduced to. It's living a life that means something to you. It's not for folks who have high needs or low needs. It's something that everybody, no matter where you live, should be taking an advantage of. So I just want to kind of talk a little bit about what self-determination is, because some people feel that self-determination and self-direction are the same thing. They're not synonymous. They're very different. Self-determination is basically a value. It's a belief. It's really an approach to how services are delivered for people. And like I stated, it doesn't mean that you have to receive services in order to have a self-determined life. Just to kind of give you an example, I live a self-determined life because I have a job, I have a family, I belong to a church, I'm in a band. There's things that I choose to do with my day-to-day that folks aren't telling me I need to do. There's things that I choose to do. So self-determination means taking greater responsibility and control of your own life. There's some examples of how someone can be self-determined. Freedom to choose where you want to live, who you want to live with, the types of supports you receive, authority over the resources and supports you receive, responsibility for the decisions and actions that you take. Basically, it's based on a foundation and the principles of respect, dignity, and dreaming. So self-determination is basically whatever it takes. Surrounding yourself with people that have like interest of you. Being involved in activities that are hobbies that you're interested in. Some of the principles of self-determination are choice, dignity, respect, relationships, control, dreaming, contributions to the community, roles and responsibilities, basically whatever it takes. And as we talked about a couple of screens ago, I'm trying to get this done quick because I know we have a lot of presenters. There is a difference between what self-direction is and what self-determination is. So I'm going to hand it over to Chelsea so she can just talk a little bit about what self-direction is.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you, Deputy Commissioner Velardo, for having us here today. Self-determination and self-direction go hand in hand. A lot of times you need to be self-determined in order to self-direct your supports. It's a path that one can choose to become more self-determined. For DDS's sake and purposes, self-direction is a service delivery model that individuals can use to become more self-determined and have greater control over their authorities in their lives. The self-direction model allows individuals to become their own employer, to manage their own budget, have the ability to hire, fire, manage your employees, pick and choose your supports, your services, who's going to provide that for you, what that looks like for you, and what that means to you. Ultimately, it allows you to have greater control over your supports and promote a better quality of life. People who self-direct choose to take on the responsibility of managing their services, and that's kind of all-encompassing as well. When you self-direct your services, you're in control of your budget, which is a fixed dollar amount that allows you to purchase your services for what's allowed under the waiver. It offers you an array of services. You are accountable to use your budget effectively so you can get your needs met however you choose to have them met. You're the employer of record, you're the boss. So you design your supports, you design it based off your needs, your interests, and the services that are best suited for you in your self-determined life. With that, self-determined and self-advocacy kind of go hand in hand together. You have to be able to advocate for yourself and in order to determine what works best for yourself. So it's essential in self-directing your own services. The department has employed some self-advocate coordinators who are experts in the self-direction service model and can teach all of us how to advocate and live our best self-determined lives. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our self-advocates. First up, we're going to hear from Carol Grabby. She has been with the department for 17 years, and I'm looking forward to hearing her story. Thank you, Carol. You're on
muted.
mute, Carol.
There you
So
go.
thank you for having me. Sorry about all the confusion. I want to start out by explaining how I got into self-direction and how I got into it and learning how I found out about it. So I was in what's called a supported living program, and I was in this program for like 22 years. And it didn't give me a lot of control. I had like a specific amount of money I was only allowed to spend in a week and stuff like that. And for quite some time, I felt like this was my security blanket until my case manager at the time, Janice Dixon, was telling me, you know, Carol, you're too good for this. You're just too good for this. You need to spread your wings and fly. And so she was telling me about self-direction and what it was all about. And I was like really scared because, like I was saying, my self being in the, you know, supported living, it was like a security blanket for me all those years. But eventually, yeah, I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this. And I have to say that I am so glad that I am self-directing my own supports because I am a better person for it. I am a much happier person for it. And I have been self-directing now since I practically started my job, which was 18 years ago. And, you know, but you have to know who you what what needs you have, you know. um I'm trying to say this and it's not coming out right, I'm sorry. What needs you have. Like, do you need help with organization? Do you need help keeping on task? um you know, are you looking for somebody who is good with the computer, stuff like that? And that's another thing I like because I can choose who it is I want to hire. And I've done this many times through rewarding work. I found my most recent person, Erica, on rewarding work. I have hired and fired many DSPs because it didn't work out for me, or some people had to leave. Um, but I got the right fit now. Erica and we work so well together, and I am a much happier, much better person for it. Because, you know, my work, it's like a very daunting task, but you know, I love my job. And Erica is just huge in helping me with that. Um, so my God, what else can I say? Um, you know, and with that, I'm also very independent. I live on my own in my own apartment. Uh, and she helps me too with my residential. And we just have a really good time and you know, it's just huge.
So Carol, let me
Mhm.
ask you a question. So you have supports that you hired through rewarding work, you've trained and kind of received the supports that you've identified that you need, right, to help you be successful.
And I've
You live in
I've
you've
interviewed
interviewed,
the people that I
yep.
want.
And so your budget also helps you in other ways through self-direction, right? You
Mhm.
utilize Uber and Lyft to get to and from
Yep,
appointments and work, and
yep,
your DDS funding helps you with that. So there's
yep,
a lot more than just working with individuals and hiring
right,
support staff. You can
right,
get other types of services through
right.
self-direction, right? Okay,
Absolutely. And I
excellent.
get reimbursed and
You
stuff.
do.
So
So thank you, Carol, for sharing your story. I think we're going to pass it over to Kevin RC right now to give you a little bit of his personal experience with self-direction, self-determination, maybe even self-advocacy.
Hello, everyone. I I don't have like as much of a story on self-determination as Carol does, but the one thing I know about self-determination is that it's all about independence. The one thing that about independence is that you can't do it if you don't get out of your comfort zone. Now, about self-determination, I do not have what's the word? I don't hire my own staff because not everyone knows, but I was on the waiting list for like 7 years. I recently got out, but I was not put in DDS. I was put with DSS. As a result, they don't what's the word? They don't execute the same services that DDS does. I have a staff. I have a lot of services, but they're not the same as in DDS. Now, what I'm saying with this is that while it's true that maybe I don't hire my own staff, maybe I don't, what's the word, check my staff, that doesn't mean that, it's all, what's the word, it's all for nothing, because it isn't. It isn't. I still get to do many things like learn how to learn life skills, learn I'm recently taking practice DMV test for a Lisa learner's permit. So there are many things that there are many things that people can still learn. Not everyone has the same results or same services as other people. And it's an unfortunate but an undeniable truth. But that
So
doesn't mean that
Kevin, can you tell folks about what you do in terms of your self-advocacy
I'm
groups
getting there.
and,
I'm getting there. I'm
all
sorry.
right,
Just
excellent.
give me a minute. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Kev.
It's I get carried away.
That's
But
okay.
basically we all get the services we need and we just have to roll with it. Now for self-advocacy, um there's many things I've learned about self-advocacy, but the one thing that I've really learned is that if you don't, like, how to say this, if you find something that isn't right or injustice even, how is anything going to change if you don't make the effort? I just noticed that my screen is a little dark because I only have a lamp. Can anyone see me or no?
Yeah, we
We
can
can
see you.
see you.
No, I
Yep.
just want to make sure. But where was I? About self-advocacy, excuse me. If you don't make the effort to change things for the better, nothing's gonna change for the better. And if nothing's gonna change for the better, things are gonna just keep going in the same direction. As a
Excellent.
result, we need to be the change, or excuse me, we need to be the change we want to see in the world.
Excellent.
Now
Thank you.
okay.
So yeah, what I was just gonna make like a point, Kev, is that our department provides opportunities for people to connect through our self-advocacy groups. And
Yeah.
that's a form of being self-determined, right?
Mhm.
Go ahead, Carol. I know you want to say something about speak up, speak out, and
Well,
having a strong voice.
not just that, but when you were mentioning self-advocacy, I have a self-advocacy group too. And if you want, I could put that in the chat,
Yeah.
when it is and stuff.
Yes, that would
Yes,
be a
That
great
would be
resource.
tremendous.
I think it'd
Yes.
be best, Carol, if you put the whole list from the DDS website as
Yes,
the link in
Kevin.
there, okay?
That's a great
From the Advocates
idea.
Corner.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't have
So
it on the Advocates Corner,
Well,
but,
I can
I'll
do
All
it.
do,
I
right.
can
I'll do,
do it.
Kevin could probably do that for us
But I
while
want
we're
to give a
waiting.
heads up regarding this. Not all the information there is up to date, but most of it is. I just want to
Right,
bring that
right,
Yep.
out. So
right.
Thank you for that disclaimer, Kev. But I want to thank you guys because I don't know if everybody understands that there's a lot of services and supports that go on indirectly through the department that you guys are either facilitating or co-facilitating or offering
Mhm.
that really is the principle of self-determination, right? Like Healthy Relationships series that we offer folks, your Connection Connecticut Family Support Network, the Connecticut Job Bank. So all of these resources that we really encourage folks to go on to the DDS website, the Advocates Corner, so that you can see all this different resources and supports and services that the self-advocate coordinators are involved in. So Chelsea, do we have a story? We're good, right? Elise, we're on to our
I
next
think
presenter.
so. I want to thank you all. Thanks for providing that overview on self-direction and self-advocacy and sharing your story, Carol, in particular, around kind of your progression. And I'm so glad you stretched your wings and took that step, because now you're sharing your story, and it provides the opportunity for others to think about how self-direction might work for them. Kevin, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to let everyone know that the link is now in the chat. That's all.
thank you,
Thank you.
Kevin.
Thank you,
All
everyone.
right, so it's my pleasure. We're going to go a little bit out of order. One of our presenters was delayed. So Frank and Suzanne, are you ready to present? I see that you're on. Frank and Suzanne, can you come on camera?
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear
Please?
you. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Let me-
It's so
let
good
me
to
if my
see
camera-
you.
Okay,
And thank you for joining
Yeah.
us. I'll turn it over to you to share your story.
okay, very good. Very good.
Okay, you wanna,
Yeah, we're on here, yeah.
okay, so do you want,
Your camera is not on. I don't know if you have a camera on your device.
Oh, it went off again. Yeah, I do have a camera, yeah, okay. Well, Suzanne's over on the side here. She'll join me in a moment here. Our story, and many of you folks know Jared. Our story is a little different than the self-advocates here. We do the advocacy for Jared. He is severely autistic. He's a wonderful child, wonderful temperament. And so we do really a self-determination program for him. We interpret the things that he likes and everything. So I have a little helper here.
okay,
And so we've been doing the self-determination for like the day program probably for 10 years.
our day program was
Actually,
9 years.
9 years. And then we've been self-determined with both residential and day for a little bit over 4 years.
A little over 4 years.
So Jared has 24/7 staff in the residence,
Mhm.
and he has 2-to-1 staff in the community. And we've built it around a very active day program for him, which
Yeah.
Jared is 33 years old. He's an active young man, and he likes to be out in the community. All through his early years in the education setting, we always had him go out in the community every day after school and on weekends. And so he became very interested and involved and known in the community. And he enjoys
Yeah,
that.
even though he's a person who is basically nonverbal, just wants and needs. He loves to be out in the community. He's rather social, even though he can't give us a lot of the responses that we would like. But we took self-determination truly for what it was, for personal freedom, for dignity and respect, for choice. So his program, when we expressed this while he was still in a school system, we expressed on how he's good in his community and should be part of the community. So he was his day program actually was formed from Columbia University and Hunter College. It was part of a PhD program, and he was the subject. And so they designed a program. It was presented to DDS and to the school system, and that this would be something that for autistic, for the kind of autism that Jared has and severely autistic, that it would probably be a very good program. And I see that a lot of the self-contained day programs are trying to have more of that choice and freedom and taking them out so that their communities know them. That's an important part of the self-determination, and that they're in their communities and they're part of something that they really want to be, even though they cannot really express that.
Some of the activities that he does in the day program, for example, Connecticut's such a small state, he gets to go everywhere. The Mystic, we're in Fairfield, but so he enjoys things around here, the Noack Aquarium and the Beardsley Zoo and so forth. But he goes up to Lake Compounce in the summer. He goes to the Connecticut Science Center in Hartford, Mystic Aquarium, activities in New Haven. And he loves all that. And he has a good exercise program. He belongs to the rec center and so forth.
Yeah,
So
we take all of the parts that DDS requires for the day program, and we implement that. He has his recreational, he does ADLs, he does domestic. We started our residential during COVID, which was quite difficult. But what we did is, even with the day program, Jared would go and order food. He would go shopping, and he did an enormous amount of ADLs in the home, cleaning, learning to cook, folding clothes, washing clothes, mopping, all of those areas. So he was very, very busy. It was very different during COVID, but we weren't going to do any kind of remote or anything. We couldn't get our heads around that, or how that would be useful for our son. But we do an enormous amount of teaching strategies. Not having an IEP now, we have an IEP, but being in a special ed teacher, IP is very similar to IEP. You take it very seriously that the goals and objectives must be implemented, signed off on with our supervisor. We have lovely staff. Our staff are highly trained. And self-determination is wonderful because you do have that choice and freedom in many ways. And there's some things that you don't, like with an FI or whatever. We're changing over to our FI now, but we were very pleased with ours. And so we're looking forward to that relationship with the new, FI.
One of the big challenges, and everybody on the call knows it, is staffing. We heard it from the other people that spoke earlier. We do have turnover. We have several long-term staff, which is wonderful. And the supervisor's been with us for many, many years. But getting new staff is always a challenge, and there's lots of stories about that. We've successfully used Indeed quite a bit. We've not had as much success with rewarding work as the other people have, but we want to renew that and see if we can have some more success with that.
It could be the disability, but we haven't had. I think maybe our, we need to have people who have behavior, training, and that they understand that autism and Jared's autism, and they're willing to do, understand that autism because it's unique with every person. But self-determination is working for us. It's a very good program. We're teaching him to be truly independent, which we had not seen before. And the staff member that I have as the supervisor now, she was with us when Jared was a child. So she sees when she first had him, she says the things that were lost, we got back. He never lost them. They were just kind of like dormant. But now we're teaching him to be a self-advocate. We're teaching him independence, and he's a much happier whole person than what he was before. So it's working very well.
Thank you
Are
so
we
much.
within our time limit? I wanted to make sure. Okay.
You are. You're well within your time limit. Did you have additional thoughts that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think we've had good support from DDS Case Management. Christy McKeever is our case manager, and she helps us with the budgeting.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that can get time consuming to go through the budget and all that type of thing. But we've done well, and we've always turned money back, I think, every year. Part of it's due to be unable to hire the full staff.
Using funds wisely. There are things that we do that we say, we're not going to be frivolous about things. I mean, this is state money, and you have to be accountable. You have to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to. And that's what we have tried to do. We always ask our case manager, have we given you the data? Have we fulfilled our goals? And have I given you everything that you need? And yeah, they're always, very positive, and they get everything that they need for us because we do take it seriously. We take all the risks, and with self-determination, as wonderful as it is a lot of work, and you have a budget. It goes to an FI, and you have to make sure that you are doing what you're responsible for, because there is a responsibility.
We can talk a little bit about the residential piece. We really haven't said anything about that.
Yeah, our day program, and then our residential piece, that was a no-brainer. That's actually very easy. The day program is probably what is much more.
But he has his own apartment.
Yeah.
And it's nearby us, which is convenient.
Yeah, it needs to be.
We have all kinds of technology in that apartment.
Yes.
We have cameras, we have the Blink, and we have the Alexa, the Amazon Alexa, so we can communicate. Jared's not so much on a phone, he likes to see the video. And so we can monitor what goes on there. He's got 24/7 staff in the apartment who help prepare the meals and make sure his meds are done, and the keeping, and that's worked pretty well. He enjoys living on his own. He's 33 years old. He wants to be on his own.
The most important thing is having a supervisor that manages this. A person that truly manages it so that you don't have to micromanage.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about his person. So our supervisor is the one that watches Jared. The cameras in there are for Jared. They're not for staff. It's for watching Jared and making sure that his LON is followed. We take that very seriously. DDS says he needs this, and he's going to have it. Our supervisors, we are very blessed, and so that takes that stress from us. There's just so much you can do, but it's a very nice program, and you really have to navigate and and do something. A lot of things yourself, but they decide where they live. They decide the program. They don't have choices, and you don't have to. You don't have to compromise so much so that safety is, that there's a lack of safety. So that's what we get from it, is that Jared is safe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I couldn't have planned this better. And I wish I could say that it was all planning, but sometimes it's just fortune. That Denise started out by saying self-direction can work for really anyone, for all of us. And then Carol talked about her story and how she came to self-direct. And then you give your example of how self-direction works for Jared. And I think it just beautifully illustrates it's different for each person, but that's the beauty of it. It can be customized.
It is.
And when you described the day supports and also the residential supports, I think it shows that with creativity and a vision, self-direction really can be customized and work for anyone. And you also made the point that piggybacks on Kevin's point, that self-direction and self-advocacy go hand in hand. And so I just want to thank you for being willing to present today, but also for your advocacy. It definitely has resulted in a wonderful support system for Jared, and I appreciate you sharing your story. All right.
Thank you for inviting
So-
us.
And if you can stay, we'd love to have you stay, and there may be some questions.
We'll stay for questions.
Wonderful. So
I'm going
I
to
think,
the-
Carol, you mentioned that you used rewarding work to hire your current direct support staff person. And I'd love to now introduce Teresa Driscoll, who's joining us from Rewarding Work. That's going to share a little bit about what Rewarding Work has to offer in terms of finding that right support person for you. So welcome, Teresa.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here. I have been with Rewarding Work since 2008. And in 2018, Rewarding Work merged with a larger human service agency named TIL. We're based in Dedham, Mass. So it is part of merging with a larger human service agency. It has given us many more resources, which has enabled us to expand a lot of our programming. So I'm excited to walk you through what we offer. I will share a PowerPoint. Okay, can you see the PowerPoint? Okay, thank you.
Yes, we can.
So we have been a partner with Connecticut DDS for quite some time, over a dozen years. And as I mentioned, Rewarding Work has been in operation since 2004. We were the first directory of of our kind in the country to focus solely on supporting people of all ages with disabilities. And that is where our focus remains. So we are basically a tool for people who are directing their own supports. It's free for anyone with Connecticut DDS eligibility. And the website itself, we do operate, we're based in Massachusetts, so we operate in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Kansas, but rewardingwork.org/Connecticut is a dedicated landing page for Connecticut. So if you go to rewardingwork.org Connecticut, you'll learn all that you need to know to get started using Rewarding Work. So basically, and I know some of you have used Rewarding Work previously, but once you go onto the site, you can register and subscribe. And once you subscribe by entering the access code, you can search applicants who live near you. And you can also post your support needs directly on our job board. So many employers use both methods. So you could go on and post a job, and in that case, applicants who have a profile with us will be able to view your job and reply directly to you. Responses go through our secure email system, so the employer, it's a confidential process. So the applicant does not know specifically who they're applying to, but they're applying for that particular job. So here is the access code. It's CTDDS Connect. And this screen basically just describes the process very quickly. Again, create account, subscribe, then you can search applicants or post a job or do both. And then at that point, you would enter the screening process. And if you find applicants who you think may be a good fit, you would contact them and let them know that you heard about them on Rewarding Work, or they would apply to your job. And then you could set up an interview, and if that's successful, we'll go on to the hiring process. So the search function is a really great tool because Rewarding Work is really all about helping employers and applicants find a match that is right for them. So as an employer, what we usually suggest is to go to the applicant search page and first enter your zip code. And then based on your zip code, you can see how many applicants may be in your area. And then if from that list, you can further customize your search. So we have a set of filters. So you could select, for example, you may be looking for someone who has experience supporting someone with autism, someone who has a access to a vehicle and is willing to transport someone in their car, someone who's available evenings. So it's a very easy way to really customize your search and find an applicant who could be a good fit for you. And posting a job is also a pretty easy process. You would basically complete a job form. Once you submit the form, your job is posted immediately to our board, and it is active for 30 days. Applicants search for jobs in a similar way that an employer would search for an applicant. So an applicant would go to the job board and they can enter their zip code, and they can also filter the search to say what type of job they're looking for, and they will come up with a list of jobs that may be a good match for them. So while your job is active, you can go in at any time and edit it if you need to. if you hire someone sooner than the 30 days, you can take your job down. We have everything you do as an employer, we have a dashboard where you can manage your account. So if you post a job once, it will, after it expires, it will go into your folder of jobs. So if you need to post the same or similar job in the future, you can basically work from the job you already have there, so that you don't have to continually recreate your posting. So basically the website, if you haven't looked at it recently, we've made many really nice upgrades to it. The website is accessible and responsive. It's mobile friendly, which is great. About 50% of our users access the website through a mobile device. It is ADA compliant, and as I mentioned, it has a powerful search engine to customize your searches and an easy to use job board. So this is just a quick look at what the dashboard looks like. But really, once you go in and register and subscribe, every time you log onto Rewarding Work, you'll come to this dashboard where you can easily navigate your account and decide whether you want to search applicants or post a job. So some other enhancements are that the website can be translated to nearly any language. If you go to the top of our web page, on our homepage, or actually any page on the website, you can select a language, and every page, including our forms, will be translated to that language. Another really great feature, and I'll go back to the dashboard. We have, if you look at these icons, we have one now that is called a notification center. So as someone who needs to hire, which we do on the site refer to people who need to hire as employers, you can go into our notification center and you can select that you'd like to be notified whenever a new applicant near you completes a profile. So that has been a really successful feature. It saves people time. You don't have to log in several days a week to see if anyone new has shown up. We will alert you with a notification. People can choose whether they want notifications by email or text message. We now on our job board, we have a share a job button. So if we have an applicant who's looking at your job and it may not be quite right for them, they could just click the button and share the job with a friend. So that has been a great feature as well. We have training videos on our site that the videos are in English and Spanish, and they basically just, they're short videos. They're 30 to 60 seconds long, but they basically walk employers and job applicants through the process of using Rewarding Work. And I think, let me see, we have 2 more screens. So this screen is our flyer. So if you go to rewardingwork.org CT, which is the Connecticut Employer Landing page, you can download a flyer. And our last page, we have our contact information. And one other new feature I forgot to tell you about is we now have a chat messaging button on our website. So if you are on our website and have a question, you can chat with us. If we're not if we're not available for a live chat immediately, we will get a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So so that basically, to wrap it up, is I think what makes rewarding work unique as well is that we always have people here to support anyone using the site. So we provide support by telephone or email or through this chat feature. So if anyone is interested in trying out the site, or if anyone has questions, we are always here to help.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And
You're
it's
welcome.
really, really exciting to see the enhancements to the platform.
Yeah.
And I know it addresses that key issue that people are concerned about. How am I going to find the right match that will work for me? So thank you so much.
Exactly. Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Next, I would like to introduce Holly Carmichael. I think Frank and Suzanne mentioned that they're excited about transitioning to a new fiscal intermediary, and GT Independence is that fiscal intermediary. And Holly is here to tell us a little bit about the role of the fiscal intermediary. Welcome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor to be here and have the privilege to talk to you today a little bit about GT Independence and self-direction and where the FI kind of fits in. So what I'll cover for you is just a little bit about who GT is, our mission and values and approach to service delivery, kind of why we believe in self-direction as a service model, and what role an FI plays in that model. We'll give you just a brief overview of the transition implementation plan for that, as well as let you know about some upcoming stakeholder engagement on the transition. So GT Independence was founded in 2004. This year's our 20-year anniversary. And we somewhat unique in terms of the line of fiscal intermediaries that exists in the world, really started because we needed the services ourselves. My brother-in-law, Ben, that you see pictured here, was really struggling with some of the traditional service model options. He was getting kicked out of group homes for behaviors. He didn't want to eat dinner at the scheduled time, what was on the menu, and recreate at the prescribed time, or have his roommate selected for him. And after we kind of exhausted all of the options in our community, we had a case manager. It's always a good case manager, I think, that is aware of things, who said, there's this model of self-direction. I don't know a lot about it, but it might be a good option for him. And it was truly a game changer. Ben lives in his own home right around the corner from us. The staff he chooses, he has a live-in staff, so and just one person who gives some relief sometimes, so he's not having constant staff turnover. He chooses who lives with him. Right now he doesn't have anyone who lives with him, but he has in the past, and it just, he's able to eat when he wants to eat and go where he wants to go and be an active member of his community. And that's really when we look at what we're trying to do in the world of health and human services, yes, we want to provide good service, but it's really about giving people a good life and a chance to be with everybody else. That's really the dream. So our mission at GT Independence is to help people live a life of their choosing, regardless of age or ability. And that choice is so critical in our value of self-determination. I think Denise must have gotten into our new hire employee training on SD 101. We have a slide that talks about how self-direction and self-determination are not equivalent. Self-determination is one of our core values. We don't see it as equivalent to a program. It's really this inalienable right of all of us to just make choices and be in charge of our own destiny of how we want to live. But our values of integrity, respect, community, and professionalism are foundational at GT. It's what we base all of our new hire choices on. And as we provide services, we hope for those of you that will interact with us, you feel those values exhibited throughout every interaction that you have with us. So when I talk about choices, I think sometimes it's very easy to realize or take for granted, rather, the choices that you might not have if you have long-term care needs. Just for example, just for you today, thinking about if you chose when to wake up, whether or not you would take a shower. I'm an evening shower, not a morning shower. If you chose what you would wear today, what you would have to eat, where you would go, what you would do, who you would spend your time with. I'm really glad all of you chose here. But these are very basic choices that we all might take for granted, that if you have a disability or a long-term care need, and are living in even a home and community-based setting of like a group home. I've been a direct care staff in a group home, that these choices may not be afforded to you. And so choice is so such an integral part of self-determination and self-directed service model. So we believe in self-direction because we know it's an amazing option for our family. We've lived it and know that. But there are tons of research study, decades of it, that show that with choice through self-directed models, there are better outcomes. People are more likely to be satisfied, reduction in unmet personal care needs, reduction in costs, primary caregiver satisfaction, higher quality of life, and really, people are the experts of what they live in need of, what's meaningful to them. For my own daughter, Maggie, who was born with a rare disease and has developmental delays and is a wheelchair user, going through her IEP process, that I know someone brought up of being a special education teacher and understanding the IEP process and the IP piece of, they wanted to make a goal around cutting, but she really struggled with that with her ataxia. And that wasn't, she's not going to be a seamstress someday. So we wanted to focus more on letter recognition and reading and things that are meaningful for her and her future life. Not that cutting isn't a good skill, but maybe not most important to her. But I think the biggest thing I can tell you on self-direction is if you can just, of why it might make sense, is if you can just for a moment reflect back on the last time that you bathed or showered and had this very intimate personal care that you addressed and took care of. And remember that feeling of undressing and being vulnerable. If someone pops open the door, and imagine for a minute that you remember what type of shampoo you used or what your routine is in terms of how you clean your body. And if you needed support with this intimate care need, imagine having somebody support you that you didn't like, or worse, that didn't like you, and not having any control over that. So we talk a lot about choice and self-direction of getting to choose your provider. I think the right to fire is just as critical in terms of the right to say, I don't want this person helping me with this particular care need. And that's why we believe in self-direction. We serve across 17 states, including as well as the District of Columbia, across many different programs of all types. But we have a broader mission and a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal that every person should have the option to self-direct. In our country, there are roughly 269 Medicaid home and community-based service waivers, and only half of them offer self-direction as an option. So we have a mantra of when there are 269, Microsoft had a mission of there will be a computer on every desk, and people thought it was crazy. And so our mission is that self-direction Appendix E on every 1915C waiver, which in Connecticut, you guys have done a great job of offering self-direction. So you should be very, very proud. But right now, you can't, Maggie can't live everywhere. And that's one of my goals, is that she can live in any state she wants and choose who helps support her. Oftentimes barriers are that it's just not available, or there's a lack of information or knowledge about it. There can be a perception of fraud, of that people aren't good stewards of their funds. I mean, I thought, Frank and your wife, your story of your son, of like, I think oftentimes, in fact, it's just the opposite. Families take a lot of ownership and responsibility of being good stewards of funds and public resources and being mindful of how those funds are being spent. There can be stigma around family members being a paid provider, myth that it's so much work and that there isn't any support, or that somebody has to meet a certain standard in order to self-direct. They have to have verbal communication, or they have to prove XYZ first. Recruiting workers, as you all mentioned, can be a challenge. That's a challenge even for non-self-directed services, but certainly a challenge. And there can be challenges in terms of aligning Medicaid and Department of Labor rules, because there's certainly employment laws at play as well. In terms of the FI plays a role. We do a lot of things, but hopefully this short list helps you sum it up a little bit. One is enrolling participants and their providers in terms of certain documents that set the participant up as an employer and make sure that their providers have employment paperwork completed. Making sure those providers meet required eligibility standards for the program. Issue payroll, that's usually all people think we do. If we just highlight that one, that's usually the FI thought, but also along with that, withholding and filing taxes, processing purchase requests for goods and services that might be included in the budget, monitoring utilization management within the program's parameters and report on budget usage, procure workers' compensation policies, submit claims for services, maintain records and compliance, and provide ongoing customer support, just to give you a broad overview of really being the support element and administrative aspect for those individuals self-directing. At GT Independence, in addition to this foundation of values, we have some brand promises. We want to make sure we get people paid. We know that that is really critical because it's hard enough to recruit workers. And so if they're having payroll issues, that only makes that even harder. So we are committed to making sure we remove those barriers, get folks paid. We want to bring our values to the table always. Like I said, I hope you feel those throughout every interaction that you have with GT, whether that's a phone call, an email, an enrollment meeting, or just me chatting with you today. And we want to remove the barriers to self-direction. We're really focused on that. This is Maggie. She's cute as the Dickens, as you can see, and she has some big dreams. And I wouldn't change her for the world, but I'd change the world for her. So that's what we're doing. We are committed to customer experience because we've sat on the other side of the table and receive services ourselves. We're very focused on customer experience, making sure you can quickly connect to a live person and reach resolution when you connect. We have year over year had very high satisfaction rates across participants and providers in the states that we serve. And we're really proud that over 10% of GT's employees have a disability themselves. We speak 23 languages in-house, so that helps us be able to support individuals with our own team members, in addition to connecting with a support agency that can help us with languages beyond those 23. Now, for a transition overview, our goal is always in any transition that we complete is to have a seamless transition, no interruption in services. Make sure folks are onboarded successfully with a personalized approach, and that at every layer and level, we have satisfied stakeholders, from the direct workers themselves, participants, and their family and support circle, case managers, and of course the departments in the state who grants the contract. Some important dates to keep in mind. Right now, we are in the enrollment phase here as we get and closely approach that transition date of March 24th. That will be the start of services for all transition participants. GT is taking on any brand new participant referrals who are just starting on their self-direction journey, beginning in December, of course. We have those going, as well as a group of pilot folks who started with us right before the year end. And if you're interested in meeting our team, we are doing stakeholder engagements. You can check out this website, www.gtindependence.com/CT. The event registration for this town hall is live up there now. We'll also be emailing an invite out to transition participants and their providers so that they can come join us in person. It is a hybrid town hall, so if folks want to join online, they still can do that. but have the opportunity to interface with individuals and provide support and information coming up. The website also has a lot of FAQs and information. There's a copy of the department letter that went out regarding the transition and enrollment. It's available, I believe, in 10 different languages that you can see right there and have that translation and accessibility for you. And with that, I'll stop and, well, we're doing questions at the end, right? So I won't take
We
questions yet,
are,
but I
we
hope you
are.
can.
So I would encourage people to drop some questions. We're almost at the end. We have one treat for you. We want to share our self-direction video, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. So Kyle, do you want to cue it up?
Yep, just 1 second. When I woke up like 10 o'clock in the morning, I had to go to eat my breakfast, like cereals or yogurts or something. So that is my chicken.
One of my favorite hobbies to do is acting. In the winter time, I am a professional Mrs. Santa Claus. I like to have kids come up on my lap and tell me what they want for Christmas.
The mission of the Connecticut Department of Developmental Services is to partner with individuals and their families to create meaningful opportunities for individuals to fully participate as valued members of their communities.
Kyle always wanted to be a chicken farmer. It was our dream to help his dream, and then self-direction helped us so we were actually able to do it.
Self-direction gives the individual the power, the autonomy, the independence to make their own choices about what they do during the day.
Self-direction really gives a person the choice and freedom to direct their supports and services in the way that they choose to. They become the employer and become a boss. The employer hires and trains their employees. They can be acquaintances, neighbors, students, retired persons, co-workers, and others that they know, like, and trust. As the employer, the individual can set the schedule, assign duties, and supervise his or her own staff.
I come in the morning and I work with Kyle, and he directs what we're going to do. So we might do the gardening first, but usually we do the chickens first.
I've been working with Annalie for 7 years. I am a PCA and her job coach. We cook. We try to do lunch for grandparents on Wednesdays, so we stay pretty active together.
Being a boss is a tough job. We understand that people are going to need some assistance in getting started and also, you know, to continue with the process of self-direction, and that they have the assistance that they need. DDS is there.
Well, I want to be a good boss because if everybody who works for me needs a break or so, they'll let me know, and then we'll take a break.
He's a very good boss, very considerate. Little things like walking, he'll say, don't walk over there, there's poison ivy. Or be careful with that, there's a beehive over here.
I usually get up in the morning around 5, take a shower, have breakfast, wait for Jesse. We go shopping, and we work at the food pantry, which is probably the highlight of my week.
She's a good boss. You know, she's got her head on her shoulder. I like that she could speak her mind.
I boss her around in a good way, not in a bad way. I love her, and I want her to be my PCA forever.
One of the reasons that people opt to self-direct their services is because they have a budget to use in order to customize their supports and services in the manner in which they wish to. They're getting more bang for their buck. They're going to find that their life has been changed or enhanced in some way.
Since he started the self-direction, I'm just amazed at what he's able to do. I never would have thought he could do some of the things by himself that he does. We provide him guidance, but he does so much on his own.
Most people see themselves through their jobs, and it brings them self-esteem, it brings them feeling of self-worth. The self-direction allows them to do what they want to do and to be able to do something that's meaningful. I expect Kyle to want to farm for the rest of his life.
If you have somebody like Alien who's very strong-willed, independent, she's very social, she wants to be out and about doing things and meeting people and talking. Self-direction is just the way to go. Anna Lee has become very responsible, independent. I don't know, what else? You know, she's happy, and that's the biggest part, you know, happy with her day.
I love you guys. I love you, my dad. I love you, my mom.
You too.
Love you too.
The Connecticut Department of Developmental Services offers a variety of support to help individuals live as independently as possible in places where they can use their personal strengths, talents, and passion. Visit our website to learn more.
My friend.
Thanks so much. Well, I want to thank all of our presenters today. As I said, the themes that you captured from one presentation to the next, we couldn't have planned it better. And it really, I come away, I love these forums because I come away each and every time thinking about things in a new way, thinking about new potential possibilities. I see there are not a lot of questions in the chat. Adriana, you asked a question of rewarding work, how they accommodate people who speak languages other than English. And I know Teresa touched on that, but did you want to come on and ask a little bit more?
Sure. And
All
sorry,
right.
I apologize. I was just reading the chat and was about to reply. So when you're searching for applicants, when you go to the filters section, you can select the language that you're looking for an applicant who is fluent in that language. Yes.
Great. And then I see there have been a lot of resources that have been dropped in the chat as the presentations have been going on. Does anybody want to raise their hand and ask a question? This speaks to me of the clarity of the presentations and the clarity of the information that was shared. We do have a question for Holly. Is payroll now extending to 2 weeks rather than weekly?
No, great question. Thank you. The payroll is weekly. It's a Sunday through Saturday pay period. And I know that some of I think one FI had a different pay period than another. So it'll be Sunday through Saturday and then paid that following Friday each week. Oh, you're muted, Elisa. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. I see lots of thumbs up and great presentations and kudos for the presenters. I don't see any other questions. Oh, I do see some hands that are up. So we will go to Shannon O'Brien.
I just wanted to thank the Schlegels for presenting. I've known Jared and the family for a very long time, and I know that where he's at now is a great place compared to where he had been in the past. And it is because of the family and his circle of supports that brought him to the point that he's at. So I did want to thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Schlegel.
Thank you, Shannon. Next, we have Dan.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off what Holly just said about different pay cycles for the two current FIs, because GTI's pay cycle mirrors Allied's Sunday through Saturday. For anyone using Sunset, it's Monday through Sunday. So the very last pay period for Sunset will only be a 6-day pay period when it transitions to GTI. Just a little clarity on that because they are a little bit different.
Thanks, Dan. Frank and Suzanne.
Let me unmute. Yeah, I wanted to ask Holly again. I'm having a little trouble where Jared Ray isn't capable of managing his finances. So we're employers of record, particularly Suzanne is. We wanted to get some of the information on the nuts and bolts of the employer of record. I mean, details like, how do you submit mileage? How do you submit reimbursements? How do you submit purchase? And I didn't really see that on your site. Maybe I'm missing it, but I was curious if you could comment on the best way to get that kind of information.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So in terms of the employer of record role, this is a piece we've been talking with the department leadership about in terms of making sure that you as the support system have information around making an informed choice. So typically we enroll the participant as the employer of record, but with that caveat of seeing the employer of record role differently as primarily the EIN holder, as the home care service recipient. So this is part of the IRS coding, and that helps give just a little bit of better adherence to IRS compliance, but that doesn't mean in terms of your role that you and your wife are playing in terms of supporting and directing can't still act in that in terms of representative, or still choose to be the EOR if you wish. So just to clarify that, in terms of the mileage or purchasing supports, that's another piece we've been confirming, but for mileage or for employees, they can submit that right through the GT app. In fact, there's a new enhancement to make that mileage submission even easier coming out very soon that they'll see that will allow them to do either per trip or per mile, depending on the type of transportation that you've built into your budget. And as far as purchasing requests, we're working on some options to make that more simplified for individuals, representatives, EORs. That information we don't typically put right on the website since we serve across a lot of programs. There are nuances state to state. And so if it's right online, one state might think this applies to them. So we've had that issue in the past, but where that'll be is there will be a resource section of the portal that will have different elements that'll walk through those processes.
Can I ask when these things will be populated? I went on the portal the other day and I didn't see any of the employees or their codes or their pay rates, so we can make sure that we start off in the right place.
Yeah, so after we enroll, we're working this month to get everybody enrolled, and so you should see that before the start date of 3/24, but we'll send some communications out. There are some already planned for upcoming, and some of those resources, like you mentioned, in terms of purchasing our pieces, we're just finalizing with DDS on that process to make sure that the resource we develop aligns with those program rules, et cetera. But those will definitely be available, and we'll send some messages out. So I've noted to make sure that you definitely get notified of those, but everyone should receive a message about those new resources once they're up and available there. But I'm glad that you connected and got on the portal already. So kudos to you for being ahead of the game there. Thank you.
And one last quick question here, because Jared is not able to endorse and approve the visits. Is there a mechanism there where it can be deferred to basically us?
Yes, most definitely. So even for an individual who may not have the ability to sign on their own behalf, they can still be enrolled as the EOR and have that appointed responsibility to a representative such as yourself or your wife or both of you. You can have more than one representative. In the DDS array of services, there's also a IDGS supervisor role that can be made available as a needed support. So I know you mentioned you had a supervisor, and perhaps that may be an element that that individual plays.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
And thank you, Shannon, too, also.
You're welcome.
I'm doing the mute again. I don't see any other hands raised, and I don't see any other questions in the chat, though I do see a lot of excellent presentations. So I want to take this time, thank each of our presenters. Each of you added such value to this topic. And when you put it all together, what a phenomenal forum. I couldn't have asked for a better group of presenters. Thank you all. And for those of you who might be interested in taking a look at the recording, if you give us to the end of the week, by the beginning of next week, you will be able to see the recording on the forum. If there's somebody you know that wanted to attend today but wasn't able to, you can direct them to our website and they'll be able to see the presentation as well as PowerPoints. We'll share the PowerPoints as well. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.